is my home. I promise to keep it healthy and beautiful. I will love the land, the air, the water, and all living creatures. I will be a defender of my planet, united with friends. I will save the earth.
My name is Commissioner Frank Avila. I'm a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. And the name of our show today is The Future of Healing and Healthcare. And as my guest, I have Dr. Terry Mason, the Chief Operating Officer of the Cook County Department of Public Health. Thanks for being on the show, Doctor.
You're very welcome, Commissioner.
You know, Doctor, as a commissioner, very few people know what we do. They think we're the water filtration plant out at Navy Pier, the drinking water, but we're not. We're the bottom end. We treat human waste. We have three missions. We treat human waste, and people say, well, human waste, I say, yes, it's poop and pee. We protect our water supply, Lake Michigan, and we prevent flooding. But my concentration now is that on the poop and pee side. They want us, when they flush the toilet, take a bath, or what they eat, comes into our system. Every day, what they do, it comes into our system. We have 7 plants. One is the largest in the world. And they want us to remove every toxic chemicals, every pharmaceuticals that comes into the system. So because when we treat it, the treated pee we call effluent, it discharges into the waterways. On the poop side, we call it biosolids, it's fertilizer. So they want us to make sure that all the toxic chemicals are removed. And I was thinking one day, I said, why do we have, and they said, Frank, why aren't you doing it? And I was thinking, you know what, we cannot remove everything. So instead of working at the back end, I decided we should do at the front end. It's what people eat, what they buy, what they drink, what they put on their lawn. That's what we should talk about. And I've been hearing a lot about you, Dr. Terry Mason, and your credentials and what you're trying to promote out there in the Cook County and maybe throughout the world. And would you please explain to the public your background and why you're so why you want to promote good health?
Well, thank you, Commissioner, first of all, for having me on your show and giving me this opportunity to have a conversation. First and foremost, let me say that as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to learn. And I wanted to use that knowledge to try and figure out how to help people and solve problems. My grandson tells me that that's what he does. He says, I solve problems. That's what he does. So that's what he wants to continue to do. And I said, well, that's a good thing, mantra for an engineer. But I started out, and to truncate this, I went to Loyola University here in Chicago. And then I went to medical school, University of Illinois, and did a residency at what used to be Michael Reese Hospital. Long gone now,
yes.
But it was a powerhouse in those days. And I practiced urology as a board-certified urologist in the city of Chicago from 1983 to 2006, at which time I was called by Mayor Daley to head the Chicago Department of Public Health. And I did that from 2006 to 2009. And then I went to Cook County. And at Cook County, I came in as its chief medical officer, the system chief medical officer. Did a 6-month stint as its interim chief executive officer for the entire system, all 6,600 employees. And now I run the Cook County Department of Public Health. And it's been a great journey, and I've enjoyed every bit of it.
I see. You know what? And as I was talking about prevention, now, what can a person do when they wake up in the morning, they go to work, or the kids go to school, they take a shower, they eat their breakfast, they put shampoo, soap, brush their teeth, lotion on them, for them to stay healthy? Do you have any recommendation on them to stay healthy? Because anything they do, it comes into our plant, and we cannot remove everything.
Well, I tell you, Commissioner, the one thing that in my many years as a urologist, I treated male erectile dysfunction among prostate, bladder cancer, and all the other things, kidney stones. And what became very clear as we understood why men had erection problems was the damage to the inside lining of all the blood vessels in the body. And that damage to the blood vessels everywhere. You don't have damage to just some blood vessels. If any are damaged, all are damaged. And so what I learned is that when we looked at, there was in fact an article in the Journal of American Medical Association in 2009 that looked at men who had erectile dysfunction. And that article then connected those men who died from heart attacks, strokes, what we call TIAs, mini strokes, or even death from any cause. And what they found is that all the men that ended up with a stroke, or most of the men that had a stroke, or had a heart attack, or had arrhythmia, in other words, the heart started beating all erratically, most of those men had erectile dysfunction first. So in the movie Forks Over Knives,
Yes.
we talk about the canary in the coal mine.
Yes.
And so erectile dysfunction for men is the earliest clinical sign that you already have generalized vascular problems throughout your entire body. And it's just a matter of time whether something gets clogged enough that feeds the blood vessel in your head that you end up with a stroke,
Yeah.
or one on your heart that ends up in a heart attack, or ends up in your legs causing what we call peripheral vascular disease. But it's all the same problem, and its major factor for causation is food.
Food.
It's food. It's what
Interesting.
we're eating is what's causing these particular things. Because when we look at people who eat the standard American, or the so-called standard American diet, which is high in fat, high in
Salt.
cholesterol, high in salt, just
Yes.
all these things that we have become engineered to desire. And when we eat these things, it causes an irritation of this inside lining of our blood vessels. And this irritation of our inside lining of our blood vessels happens everywhere. So there's no such thing as just having problem with the blood vessels in your neck, or that cause a stroke,
Yeah.
or in your head that cause a stroke, or just blood vessels that cause a problem in your heart. No, if you have had a heart attack, or what we call a blockage in those arteries, you may go in and have a stent, and that stent may be a life-saving situation or not a life-changing kind of event. But that stent just took away the immediate cause of the problem, but did absolutely nothing to deal with the cause of the problem. You dealt with the complication, but not the cause.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yeah, I follow you.
So if we want to do something about, because if you've got damage to the blood vessel in your heart, you don't have it in just one, you got them in all.
Yes, yeah.
You also got the same damage to the blood vessels that feed your head and your legs and your kidneys and every other organ in your body. So it was understanding that helped me move to the careers where in public health, where we can now talk about these things in a different sort of way to a much larger audience and give the message, not my message, but the truth about what we're eating, how it causes us to have disease. I mean, 30% of the cancers that we have, at least 30%, are related to diet. Yeah. At least 60 to 70% of all of the so-called heart disease and so-called strokes are at least even more. And these are things that kill thousands of people every single day. So that's why I'm grateful to be here again, to be able to talk about this and to let people know what they can do for themselves to change the trajectory of their life.
Do you know what? The reason why I talk about prevention is that I had prostate cancer. And I had it about 14 years ago. And my lovely wife said, maybe we're going to go, and she met her friend, Karen Calabrese. And Karen was a vegan. And she informed my wife about Optimum Health Institute. And she took me down there. And what Optimum Health Institute is a vegan spa. It's a place where you have nothing, you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner raw vegetables. And you have vegetable juice. So I went there the first day, and for breakfast, it was raw vegetable and vegetable juice for breakfast. Then they showed me for lunch, raw vegetable and vegetable juice. And for dinner, it looked just like breakfast and lunch, raw vegetable and vegetable juice. And we stayed 3 weeks. And the first week was very hard on me. And my kids call, and I says, Dad, how's it going? I said, you know, I think your wife, your mother went nuts, because I'm here at this place eating nothing but raw vegetables, and it's hard to change over. But I stayed there 3 weeks, and I did have posturing in my cancer, and I had to remove, but I became a vegan, changed right over, and my health for 14 years has been excellent. I mean, had no problem. But I was thinking, here was a situation where you're talking about diet. Mm-hmm. And when I go out and talk to people and they want us to remove everything that comes into our wastewater plants, because we treat all the human waste. We treat all the poop and pee, all the runoff, all the water that runs off into the system, comes into our system. When a person eats, as I mentioned, put lotion on their body, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, it comes in our system, and we cannot remove everything. So the best way to do it, as you mentioned, diet. And now, not everyone could be a vegan. Not everyone could be a vegan, but limit the amount of what you eat and increase the amount of vegetables that you eat.
Well, you know, Commissioner, you're absolutely right. And what people fail to understand is that, you know, those who read Bibles, you know, there are scriptures that talk about this in Genesis 1:29, if you want to go there. And of course, other people will cite other scriptures that says, oh, but then that got sanctified and this happened. But the point that I'm getting at, Commissioner, is there is a reason why everything we eat for meat doesn't eat meat. Almost every animal that we eat for meat doesn't eat meat. So you look at, people say, well, you need it because you got to have muscle, you got to have this, that, and the other. But if you look at a cow or a bull or an elephant or a giraffe or all of these huge animals, they're not omnivores, they're herbivores. They eat vegetables. And there are certain constructs around the way our teeth are made, our jaws are made, what we're able to do, that support the fact that that's the way we were designed. And when we say raw, you said they gave the vegetable to you raw. Well, it gave it to you in its natural state.
Yes, yes.
That's the beautiful thing. See, we think of that as being raw only because we're used to cooking so much meat. But the vegetable is intended to be eaten that way. Because you don't cook grass for the cows. You don't do that. And you can eat, and that's how you really extract the maximum benefit from the vegetables, because those things that make it green or make it yellow or make it red or make it orange, those pigments are important to provide you a source of what we call antioxidants.
Yes.
So oxidant means something's burning, so to speak. And what this does is this keeps the stuff that we need not to burn from burning. And that's why it's important to have these. You don't need to go get pills. You need to get the antioxidants in their natural state, which is in fruits and vegetables. Yeah.
You know what? That's true, because I've been a vegan now 14 years. And I go out and give a lot of talks throughout the county on how to stay healthy. And they're always asking me this question. Has there been any improvement regarding mortality in the incidence of the main disease? You got diabetic, you got heart disease, stroke, and cancer. And they're doing they're spending a lot of money in research at the back end how to cure it. But no one is spending a lot of money on that front end. So what is the mortality rate on these?
Well, let me just say this. The leading cause of so-called death in America is heart disease.
Heart disease.
Cancer is the #2 cause of death. Number 3 cause of death is medical errors. So we have a number of things that are going on. But let me just talk about that for just a
And,
minute.
I mean, the heart attack, the male used to be, that was number 1 for the male. For the female, that wasn't the number 1. Now,
Switched.
I think it's female has more stress on them now, the female. Because why? They're working, they have more stress, they work, they come home, they take care of the kids, or if they have a husband, they take care of a husband. If they're a single mom, they have more stress on them. So now the woman now, the number 1, I think, is heart attack.
Well, here's the thing. What happens to you, you are a victim of the environment where you work, live, and play. Because that's what public health does. It tries to create the best possible environment for you to thrive where you work, where you live, and where you play.
Yes.
So your community, for example, you talk about stressors. Those people who live in communities that are besieged by gun violence, that's a stressor that you get so accustomed from one point of view that you don't understand it's doing as much damage to you as it is. So when we talk about have there been improvements, no, those numbers have gotten worse, not better, because we're eating worse, not better. We're eating, if we look at it, Commissioner, we're eating so much more meat. Just between 1950 and the year 2000, we've more than quadrupled the amount of meat that we're eating. We're drinking more milk than we used to drink. We're doing a number of things, and we got to look at, well, what does this do to the body? There should be no reason, no secret as to why we are as sick as we are. First of all, we're not calling the diseases by what they are. So we talk about a stroke, we talk about a heart attack, we talk about peripheral vascular disease as though those 3 different diseases. They're not. It's one disease. It's damage to the arteries in the body caused by the same thing. And those arteries feed the legs, they feed the heart, and they feed the brain. So the problem is, and what causes that? Well, when we take in saturated fats. What are saturated fats? Fats that are solid at room temperature for the most part. And a lot of these fats are in animal fat, from animals, animals particularly. And things that come from animals, like cheese and milk and other kinds of things. So these are the things that are creating the problem for us.
And besides that, what are they feeding on?
These animals?
What kind of crops are they feeding on? They're feeding on, and what fertilizer are they putting on the crops that are getting in the crops that they eat? And that also what we eat also.
Sure, and those things are those fertilizers that they're using. Those things, in fact, none of this idea that you could have a cow happily grazing out in the grass, that's not what happens. They're huge, concentrated places where these cows are. And they're fed diets of combinations of soy and corn that are genetically modified to help them grow at a certain rate, at a certain time, so that they can be slaughtered and they will yield X amount of material.
And now, right now, they have this ingredient called glyphosate that the World Health Organization is a probable cause of cancer.
Well, they just talked about at the same World Health Organization, looked at over 800 papers and found that eating 4 pieces of bacon or 1 hot dog increased your statistical risk for cancer by 18%.
18%.
And that you're barbecuing things. There's other studies that suggest that when you're barbecuing and charring something, you release polyaromatic hydrocarbons. And those polyaromatic hydrocarbons may be, by some investigators, have some causation in cancer. So the things that we're eating, the things that we do, and men, for example, and this is why, because I was dealing with erectile dysfunction, all the manliest places to eat are places that serve huge amounts of meat. And there are places in America where you can eat huge amounts of meat. And there was one person who did a parody on it all. He had a place called a Heart Attack Grill, where you got pure butterfat milkshakes.
Oh my
The
God.
French fries were fried in lard.
Oh my God.
And he named his burgers like the quadruple bypass burger and so on and so forth. And if you were over a certain weight,
Yeah.
you could eat free
Oh.
in this place. I think they opened in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And they're going to open in other places. And it's themed. There's a whole theme. The doctor, there's a doctor, there's someone that's dressed like a doctor, excuse me. Maybe it's attacking me. But certainly these things, and when we look at what our kids are eating, when I was growing up, Commissioner,
Yeah.
if there was one obese child in my entire school,
Yeah.
that was something.
Yeah.
And now we look at what's happening with our children.
Yes.
And our children are, and they try and blame it on activity. Activity is important. I'll be the first to admit that activity, exercise is important.
Right.
But the rate limiting step for weight gain is food.
Yes. Because everything is packaged now.
Everything is
The fast
packaged.
foods. Yeah.
Fast food, fast death.
Yeah.
And we have so many, and now people are so conditioned to take pills for things.
Yeah.
So rather than look at what's really causing your problem, I'll just give you something to relieve the symptom.
Yeah, and you also, we all watch TV, and you see an ad in a commercial, and they say, well, there's so many drugs out there, and they're advertising on TV that if you take this drug, but you have to be careful because it'll be harmful for 20 other things. And this is what they're advertising now for drugs.
Well, you know, Commissioner, we're grateful that there is what's called fair balance.
Yes.
So we fought, the physician community, to get fair balance.
Fair
And what does that mean? Yes, they would tell you all the benefits of the drug, but never tell you the downsides
Yes,
of the
yes.
drug. So to have fair balance, yes, you can say take this for this and that, but now you got to say, but it may cause this, this, and this. So that you can weigh whether or not you want to take that medication based on the potential for the side effects that it may cause.
Yeah.
And so that was an opportunity to try and give the consumer more information so they could make a better decision about taking the drug.
You know what policies do you think that we should have to have better health?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Commissioner, because on October 5th of this year, we're going to be having our Cook County Department of Public Health and Loyola University will host our food summit, our third food summit.
October 5th?
October 5th.
I'm going to try and make
5th
it.
and 6th.
Okay.
It's our food summit. And at that food summit, where we've been talking now, this will be the third one, but we've been talking about what we need to do. The first year, we brought in people like Dr. Michael Greger, who wrote the book, How Not to Die.
Okay.
We brought in Dr. Richard Oppenlander, who wrote a book about Comfortably Unaware.
Okay.
This is about what we're doing to the environment,
Yeah.
how our food choices impact our environment. For example, a third of a pound hamburger consumes 600 gallons of water
Yes,
to make
water,
it.
yes, yes.
So we need to think about that when we make choices about what we're eating, because we're voting every time we do that on further damaging or not
Yeah.
the environment. We had also Dr. Baxter Montgomery from Houston, Texas,
Yeah.
who has an entire food prescription for disease, just really a fantastic guy. And we had, so these were the kinds of people that came to the meeting just to set the stage of, here is what the problems are.
Yes.
And here is how food makes all that stuff happen, both to the environment and to the human being. The second year, we focused on hunger.
Hunger.
Because in the county of Cook, 10% of all the residents in the county of Cook, all 5 million, more than 10%, are suffering from food insecurity. That is, at least once every 90 days, somebody in the county of Cook, over almost 750,000 people,
Yeah.
don't know where their next meal is coming from.
Interesting.
So the president of the county board,
Per-
Madam President, Tony Preckwinkle, worked with Kate Maher from the Greater Chicago Food Depository to put together a report so we could talk about what we were supposed to do. So we used that for our second food summit to talk about where are we, is it doing any better? And the Cook County Health and Hospital System worked to get a grant so that people who use SNAP could get double the amount of money, double the amount that they used to be able to get. Double bucks for their SNAP. So, and they put in several $100,000 for that. So we try to think about what we could do, and we're also looking at, we also had people that ran food pantries. And we had the participants who think that people come to the food pantry and get so much. Okay, we're gonna give you what we gave the people at the food pantry. And we want you, in the course of this exercise, to figure out how you feed a family of 4 for a week on what's in that bag. Because that's what people are doing every day. This year, we're focusing on how do we establish local food systems that are sustainable. Because to your other question, we believe good organically grown food should be widely available and cheap or inexpensive. And we can do that in this country because if we look at what we're doing, why is corn and why is soy and all those things so cheap? Because our government subsidizes it. So if we can subsidize stuff that we're using to make products to feed cows cheaper, to make the cost of production of things like high fructose corn syrup cheaper, that we're putting in soft drinks and bread and everything else to make it cheaper, then why can't we should in this country should absolutely insist and actually be led to the point of revolt if we can't get money to subsidize the things that are good for us.
And that's where the Farm Bill comes into.
That's where the Farm Bill comes into.
And I think it's in Washington, D.C. right now, and they should have a section out there to give subsidies to the organic farmers.
Absolutely.
Because in return, it'll be less money on the health side.
That's right.
That the hospitals, that the public agencies don't have to spend money on the health side. They're spending billions of dollars if they give a little money on subsidy for organic farming.
Absolutely. It made it cheaper for people to buy it.
Lower price.
Why should it be, why should I have to pay a premium to buy better food?
Right.
Why should I have to do that? When our same government, on the other hand, is subsidizing the stuff that's helping to kill us.
And they're subsidizing and they're using glyphosate.
And more important, they're using your dollar and my dollar, our tax dollar to do it.
They're using this ingredient, which is, they should ban it and not put in, and they predominantly you find it in soy and in corn. There. Glyphosate, which is probable cause of cancer.
There's a lot of these things.
And
but the question is, why, you got to remember now this is going to really sound bad, but the truth of the matter is we don't really have a healthcare industry in America. There is no such thing, in my personal opinion. What we do in hospitals and what we do in doctors' offices, what I did as a surgeon, that wasn't healthcare. That was medical care.
I see.
Okay. We have great medical care. I don't know about any health care. Health care puts you in a state where you don't need medical care. So if you still need medical care, you haven't done good health care. You follow what I'm saying?
I follow what you're saying. Exactly.
And I think America.
It's that prevention. We're talking about prevention.
That's right. And we can afford in this country. I mean, what we feed our children for school breakfasts and lunches is horrific.
Well, the cereal boxes, they should read the ingredients that are in the cereal boxes. It's all sugar, all and yes, they have a right to buy what they want to buy, but you should have to educate. Also, our government took away home economic in high school.
So people don't know how to cook?
They don't know how to cook.
People don't know any of these things.
Right. See, and that's a very important education in high school.
The air, the water, and all living creatures.